short video on architecture photography. This is Cathy Kelly from Sewickley, Pennsylvania, here with James Spencer. Where are you from, James?
I live in Leesburg, Virginia, in Northern Virginia.
Okay, great. We're both in the same time zone, and we, more importantly, we're both in the same cohort with the Arcanum, and we're on a journey to continually learn more from our peers and from our teacher, who we call a master, Glenn Guy, who's a travel photography guru. And so we're going to jump right in here, and we're going to look at 5 photos that I took last weekend at the Breakers, which is in Newport, Rhode Island. The Breakers is a magnificent mansion built in the last decade of the 1800s by Cornelius Vanderbilt, who made a stunning fortune in steamships and railroads. And he and his colleagues decided to enjoy their fortune by building these summer homes that look more like the Palace of Versailles than anything else I've seen in this country. So it's kind of fun to tour and get a glimpse of the history. And so I'm going to screen share right now. We're going to go to a short album of 5 photos. And we're going to start with, guess, hang on, I need to bring it up on my screen. Whoop, not that. Here we are. Okay, can you see?
Not yet. I have you, but not to your screen
all right.
share.
I think I need to hit that screen share button. Okay. And now I'll go.
Not yet.
See it? Do you have it yet?
No.
Okay, let me go back to the Hangout window. There's screen share. Okay, I want to say desktop. Now I'm going to hit the album. Do you see it now? I think maybe I forgot one button there. Wait a second. Okay. Screen share. Here we go. Desktop. Oh, start the screen share. And now let's go.
And now you're getting that special effect.
Help. Okay. Okay.
I'm seeing the...
Getting there? We now have the cohort, and now we're going to bring up the photos right here.
All right.
Okay. You seeing my photos now?
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. Sorry for the little technical glitch there.
So go ahead and click on your little thumbnail for yourself if you haven't already done that, and that way we'll lock on to your screen share.
Okay. Okay, wait a second. Whoops.
Now that's happening again.
Okay, yes, I've clicked myself. Now I'm going back. Okay. And here. Okay. Can you see my photo now of the lamppost? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. The first photo is the entrance to the Breakers. And I think it's a good establishing shot because you get an idea what the outside of the building looks like. And I think that's important if you're going to visualize that you're there or you're going to go. It was a foggy Sunday morning. The fog was rolling in off the ocean, which is just on the other side of the mansion. And I took this shot. I saw this lamppost, and one type of photo I like to compose is having a prominent foreground element and having the background also be an important player in telling the story. And what really worked for me with this image was the color and the detail of the lamppost because it told the story of the amazing craftsmanship that went into not just this lamppost, but everything on the inside of the mansion. And then the background of the mansion, the fog and the processing I did, which accentuated the effect of the fog, put it in the background, separated it from the lamppost, I think quite effectively. And there's a color contrast, a texture contrast, and also, the fog and the processing make it a little more faded into the background. So anyway, this was my opening shot. Do you have some thoughts on it, James?
Sure. Just to get us started, I'll just reemphasize what Glenn, our master, told us about this, that that we're supposed to have fun with this, and so don't let me get too serious. I don't have a lot of experience with architectural photography, so sometimes in those situations I start getting fixed on details rather than the bigger picture, as it were. So I hope that I can add some good feedback here.
Sure, fire away.
I definitely like this. It's really a wonderful color palette, and the fog just softens the background in such a pleasant way, such that the sharp clarity of the lamppost helps it stand out, in addition to its color, of course. In fact, with the lens focal length and aperture that you were using, I think the background would have otherwise been just about as sharp as the lamppost. So I think the result here, with the fog, works really well. So I find the image really enjoyable to look at, and discover different interesting details. From a composition aspect, I guess your subject here is the lamppost, of course, with the architecture aspect being a strong supporting background element.
Right.
So looking at the lamppost, one of the things that draws my eye right away is the face that's at the top of the base, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
And that's a natural reaction, since we always tend to be drawn to faces and eyes in our photographs. In fact, I didn't even notice that there's some goat heads beside the face initially. So there's,
yeah, I didn't notice that either. Ram.
But looking at this, even with the face being a natural focal point, it does strike me a little bit that the darkness, that's just below it there, is tending to push my eye up, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. The kind of the lightest part of the lamppost is towards the center, and there's some really interesting details there.
Right.
And then of course, as you go further up, you have the globes and that additional ironwork along the top.
Right.
And that's a little bit darker. So once I get to the top, then I come back down again. So I think that works really well to identify a couple of little picky points. In an ideal situation, you would have been able maybe to have captured a little bit more of the base, where it's kind of right along the bottom of the frame there. And there's a little bit of slant to the building. I don't think there's any good way to crop it or even do a straightening on it without really impact on the overall image. But it's one of those challenging situations to try to get everything to line up.
Right.
since we're supposed to keep these things short, then I will proceed when you're ready to the next one. I just got an interesting little sign up here about waiting for people to join this call, then share this permanent link. So I'm not finding your photos now. In fact, I've lost you.
James, can you hear me?
Yes, are you back?
I'm back. You're back? All right.
Wait, okay, there you are.
Okay, we're back, so let's resume. Let's go back to, are you screen sharing me now or not?
No, I'm not seeing your screen.
Okay, all right. Well, let's go back to screen share. And I think that was terrific feedback on the first one, but to stay with our time limit, we should probably move on to the second image. Is that all right with you?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Can you see my second image now, the dining room?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Thanks for your thoughts on the lamppost and the building, the entrance shot. This is now a photograph of the dining room, and this photo was taken with a diagonal perspective, which I think works here because you don't have to worry about if you did a symmetrical perspective, you would be trying to straighten lens distortion. In this case, the diagonals kind of work to bring the photo together into the corner. What I was trying to capture here is the opulence of the room. This is one of those rooms where you definitely think about the Vatican or Versailles or a palace you may have seen in Europe with the marble, the gold, the columns, the chandeliers. It's just kind of a unbelievable room. And this photo doesn't capture everything. Of course, the ceiling was amazing and would be a separate shot. But I think you can get a feel for how carried away they were with decorating this house and making it appear impressive to their guests. Your thoughts, James?
Yeah, the image here has really captured what makes this really surprisingly to me feel like a warm, accessible room in spite of the opulence and formal nature of it. So a couple of maybe technical comments first. It's really sharp. I assume you could not use a tripod, so you must have a really steady hand for the I think it was a 20th of a second exposure here.
Yes, you can't use a tripod. You have to get permission if you're going to do commercial photography. So it was only kind of tourist photography allowed and no flash. Yep. So I wouldn't have used a flash anyway. But
and you were at ISO 4000, but I really didn't see much indication of any noise. So
right.
That's probably.
This is my new Sony camera, the mirrorless A7R2, and I have found that it's amazing how well it shoots clearly in high ISOs, and also the vibration reduction feature of the lens must also be working to help me out with the handheld shot.
Sure. Yeah. So I think this image really does help provide a a really interesting view of the interior architecture. The table is, for me, kind of the least interesting part, but it provides a context. Without it, I wouldn't have any idea what the, oh, we lost you again. I still appear to be live, so I will wait a second. And hopefully you will be back. And looks possible soon.
Can you hear me now, James?
Yep, you're back again.
Yeah, I don't know why we keep getting interrupted like that. It's annoying, but
when you disappear, it looks like I'm on the Hangout by myself, but it stays live. So hopefully the recording continues while you're gone.
Yeah, I think it appears to. So let's go back to screen share, and if it's all right with you, whoops, yeah, we're on screen share. If it's all right with you, we will go on to the next image, which was shot in the kitchen of the Breakers. And I apologize that this one is a little bit grainy. Again, what I like about this composition is the diagonal of the prominent table in the middle of the kitchen and the stove against the wall and the copper pots hanging over. I think the copper pots are probably the most appealing part of the kitchen. But I think it's an interesting trip back in time to see this old-fashioned kitchen, because technology, electricity and technology and everything have greatly changed the way we cook in the kitchen. So this was one of my favorite shots in spite of the grain. But yes. Now, one other thing, I know that the highlights are burnt out in the windows because it was bright outside, but I almost think that that works out for the best, that and the reflection on the floor, because it would be distracting if you saw what was out the window. And this way it stays kind of neutral and doesn't make a statement.
So on the grain or noise, did you do any processing steps to suppress that?
No, I actually didn't think about it until Glenn pointed out that my ISO was at 20,000, which was kind of crazy because I didn't even know it went up that high.
Yeah.
I set it that high on the photo before because I was trying to eliminate camera shake, and then I think I was still there on that image without really noticing it. But.
Yeah, well, I certainly that's not too bad a grain or noise for ISO 20,000, but yeah,
right.
It might be worth a second effort on it to reduce the noise, because that's going to pop out for at least any of the photographers looking at it.
That's true. Yeah, if I were making a print, for sure, I would want to be correcting that too. Yeah, I could go back in Lightroom. I think Lightroom has a good anti-noise slider, and also there's a program. I think that one of the Topaz software.
Yeah, I use the Topaz denoise plugin fairly often.
Yeah, that would probably be a good idea to try that. So thanks for that.
I do like the composition. The angle. Certainly the viewer gets a good impression of the size of the kitchen here. It's really impressive. You talked about the brighter spots, but I think you handled, these very challenging lighting conditions to make this really enjoyable. Even though there's some bright reflections off the floor and the copper pans and the copper hoods over the stove, I don't feel like they detract from the overall image.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting, in my mind. I don't think Glenn made any comment about it. I don't, since I don't do a lot of architecture photography, I don't know whether there's any special dividing line between interior architecture and interior design, and so from an architecture standpoint, I don't know that I'm getting a lot of the architecture, but it's certainly a very interesting interior design, and I do enjoy it from that perspective.
Sure. Okay, well, thanks for that. I think because of our time limitations, it would be smart if we take a look at, we have 2 more images to go.
Yep.
Here's one of the porch. This porch is actually inside the house, but there are archways along just outside the frame to the right. And so there's natural light coming in there. And first I shot a almost symmetrical shot of just the ceiling because I was so amazed by that mosaic. But then when I walked to the other end of the room, I liked this angle better because I thought that the plants near and far gave some depth to the photo and a little bit more interest. And I was able to capture the ceiling and also add a little dynamism to the composition. So what were your thoughts on this image, James?
Well, I think this image wants me to, really makes me want to visit this room. I mean, like you said, the ceiling is just beautiful, and it got, the interior architecture here is just really captivating. And in terms of the technical aspects, the ceiling is I think quite sharp for the f4 aperture that you needed to use in this case. So I was just thinking, if I had 2 minutes alone in the room, I don't know if you could actually walk into it, but I would have just, you talked about taking a shot of just the ceiling. I would have loved to have just been lying on the floor taking a shot straight up. From my personal style, I guess you might call it, for my foreground elements, the thing that I have to think about is, do they help frame it or add to it in some way, or do they sometimes kind of impede the viewer from entering virtually the scene? And so personally for me, I guess the size of the plant in the foreground, the colors are nice, and it's a little bit softer than the background, but I don't feel like I'm entering the room the way that I want. But that's a personal choice, and I understand how you looked at the room from different angles, and this appealed to you. So
okay.
Just a really interesting architecture, and looks like another place many people can put on their bucket list to go get photos.
Yes, yeah. It's there's several mansions in Newport, and my next trip back, I'm gonna try to visit a few more of them. Okay, the last photo that I wanted to share with you is a photo through the archway entrance into the library. And you can see that rounded archways are a theme throughout this house.
Yep.
And So this is leather, tooled leather, I believe, that's in the archway. And I wanted to include that amazing detail as well as the coffered ceiling. And the lines in the coffered ceiling lead the eye over to the brightest spot in the photo, which is the stone carved fireplace. And on either side, you have some beautiful bookcases and a seating area in front. I tried to take, there's a little distraction there, which is a little sign on the post. And I tried to take that out, but honestly, it was too difficult to do that because it overlapped both the green chair and the gold chair there. And
yep.
I thought, well, it's just part of the way you're going to see the breakers now is how they have it set up.
That's right. You'd want to be some professional photographer brought in, and you could take down.
Right, then I could move that.
Turn on special lights or turn off bad lights. You know, that would be great.
Right. I did dim the highlights both with a spot tool for the lights on either side of the fireplace, and also there was a glare on the portrait on the right. So I did bring those down a bit in processing.
Mm-hmm.
And as in all of these interiors, I brought down the highlights, brought up the shadows, and increased the clarity, which is the mid-tone contrast. And that helped to kind of sharpen the detail in all of these interior shots. So Lightroom processing was very helpful on all of these shots.
Yeah, this is really my personal favorite of the set. For me, not only is the architecture compelling, but the symmetry and the leading lines and the colors and the lighting just all works incredibly well together.
Thank you.
I think the viewers, just strongly drawn into the room, and even the perspective angle here, the little bit this tilt standing, under the entrance archway there, even that helps tip us into the room. So I really like all the aspects of it. The color palette, just everything comes together. You are back at ISO 20,000 here, but if you didn't do noise suppression, I think in this, the noise is actually hidden by all the textures here. So
right.
It was a great choice to go ahead and bump it up that high so that you could get a good sharp image.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I first shot this at one level down. I think maybe that was the 16,000 ISO. And then I looked at my settings and I was a little worried that it might be blurry, so that I reshot it. And this was my second shot. I had to wait for people to walk out of my frame, but I'm glad I reshot it. And I'm pretty happy with this shot as well. So thanks. Thanks for sharing your feedback with me. Let's go back to Hangout.
Yeah. Well, thanks for inviting me.
See if there. I think with a few little hiccups, with the technology worked for us, and it was good to be able to chat in person. Thanks for making time, and we'll get some feedback from Glenn, I think, as the next step.
Okay. If you unclick my thumbnail, I think we'll get you back on the screen there.
Whoops, no.
Oh, that's sharing again.
I have to stop screen sharing. Let's see if I can do that.
Yep. Oh, that's what's happening. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. There we
go. I think we're all learning, with Glenn's guidance on how to get through the technical aspects of doing these Hangouts. But yeah, it's great to talk to people one-on-one and be able to have a dialogue more than than's possible with little text chats. So
right,
it was a great chance to get to meet you and have some fun talking about your photos. So again, thanks for the invite.
Okay, well, thank you. I look forward to seeing more of your photography, and look forward to our colleagues in the cohort coming back from their vacation so we can all interact again.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Bye for now. Have a good weekend.
Thanks. Bye.